Hey everyone, it's Michael GoosebumpsFan. I hope you're doing well today. I have a Give Yourself Goosebumps book review. Now, I don't have many books here at my apartment. I have my collection kind of split up between my old house and here. So a lot of my collection still at the old house of books that I have not read yet. I try not to just pile them up here because it just kind of makes a mess. We don't have a whole lot of room in the apartment. Anyway, I love Give Yourself Goosebumps. For anybody who doesn't know what these are, they are essentially choose your own adventure books. Kind of game books, if you want to call them that. A lot of people love these. I'm a huge fan of Give Yourself Goosebumps books. I think they're so much fun. Some of the funnest books, probably some of the funnest reading experiences I've ever had in my life, too. They just have so much going for them. Whether Stein wrote on them, whether he did not write on them, I don't really care. They're just a blast. They're always fun. This particular one I had a really good time with. It wasn't like a wonderful, one night in Pain House or a little comic book shop of horrors type of thing. It wasn't excellent like that, like either of those. But it was good. It was a really solid, little more comedic and silly read, which a lot of the Give Yourself Goosebumps books are more on the silly side. There's not really a whole lot of creep factor to them. There are some creepy things here that I won't spoil for you. I'll talk about a couple of things, but there's some really good stuff in this. I enjoy it a lot. I like ghost stories, I like haunted house stories, I like stuff like that. And this book is kind of centered around that. This is called, and by the way, this is a bootleg copy, it's why it looks so washed out and the cover's so thick. I've heard people say this is from India, that they did that there. I'm not really sure if that's true, but I'm pretty sure this is a bootleg copy of some sort. I'm not really happy with that, but I have the book. It is the whole book. It's accessible. That's all that really matters to me. As long as I'm able to read it, I don't care. Anyway, Give Yourself Goosebumps, number 37, Escape from Horror House. Now that cover might look very familiar to you. If you've seen the movie Monster House from like the early 2000s, that looks identical to that movie's cover. And that movie's monster with the house being alive. Now I will tell you this cover represents almost nothing about this book. The house is not alive. And that's not a spoiler, it's not in there. I enjoyed this tremendously. It was a very, very fun read. Basically, you, the main character of this story, are being blamed a lot for things happening around your house, and you're pretty convinced your house is haunted by some kind of ghost. Your friend Bobby, I believe is his name, tells you that it's a poltergeist, which is a type of ghost. I'm a little surprised the word poltergeist was brought up in this book at all. I figured it would probably just be, something that would probably confuse kids, even though you kind of explain it here about what it is. But even so, this book was more focused at first on you trying to prove to your parents who think that you're doing everything that there's actually a ghost doing everything that's getting you in trouble. Now you have a younger sister that's like 5 years old as well, and she loves all her doll collection and stuff, and there's a lot of things kind of hectic in this book about you trying to prove your innocence, right? And that's the fun part, and I think one of the big things that really made this fun was, again, when it comes to comedic aspects, there's a lot of comedy to this book that makes it work and makes it kind of just be a fast-paced read. And I know it took me like 5 days to read this book, but I've had quite a week, man. I got in a car wreck for the first time ever, completely got rear-ended, hit the guy in front of me. It was a nightmare. Thank God all of us are okay. That's nice. But it was a rough week that I've had. And I'm finally off for like 5 days in a row to relax for Thanksgiving. I had to work this past Sunday to have today, Wednesday, off. So it's been kind of a little hectic. But I'm thankful that I am off for a couple of days. That's pretty nice. Having a big weekend. Thanksgiving's coming up, Black Friday, all the good stuff. But it's been a hectic week. I wanted to sit down and just burn through this book, but I've had so many things going on, it's just been impossible. And I have had that big distinction that I always talk about with my Goosebumps reviews, that if I want to read a book so desperately and cannot, that speaks volumes about how good that book is. And this is a great example of that. I wanted to get back to this and get into this again and again and again all this week as I've been so busy nonstop. But I've had a blast reading this. It was so much fun. But some of the different scenarios you can get into, of course, there's like 20 different endings in this book, or 30. Is it? Yeah, over 20 different scary endings, which not all of them are scary. I don't care what the cover says. Again, very comedic style book, more funny than it is scary, even though there are the scary moments. I'll get into those in a moment. I thought one of the best setups in here was the ghost hunting stuff. So for example, you had a lady come over that may or may not be some kind of psychic named Matilda, which is kind of a cool reference to the 90s Matilda movie that we all like. Well, I kind of love it. I've only seen it once. My wife has seen it like a billion times. She showed it to me years ago and I loved it. It was so funny. The pigtails swing is like the funniest thing ever. I love that. It completely caught me off guard when I saw that movie. Did not expect to see that. Anyway, Matilda's better than Monster House. I'll state that right now. I'm just gonna throw that out there. Anyway, so you have Matilda, who's trying to help you get rid of this poltergeist, and there's some kind of eeriness there and stuff, but she keeps falling asleep on you. That's kind of fun and funny. Then there's another guy who is like her competition that she doesn't like, and if you try to invite him in the house to let him help out with his more techno gadget type stuff to try to solve the poltergeist haunting situation, she does not like that, and it kind of becomes a battle between those two. Now again, there's a lot of different routes that you can take throughout this book. That's kind of one of the bigger stories. The other story that I really like a lot, and I think it's more of the fun route of this book, is going directly to the basement. Instead of dealing with these two people, just go into your basement. And when you get to your basement, there's faces in the wall. Like, all over your basement walls. Dude, when I was thinking about my basement from my old house, and I was thinking about, like, if it wasn't even like that, because half of our basement is a finished basement. If you just had a full concrete basement, and you came down there and the lights were out, and you were seeing something wiggle in the walls, and you turn the lights on, and then the lights go out again, but you got enough time to see faces all along the concrete of the walls, all around you. There is something so unnerving about that, and that was so effective. I think that's one of the most effective scares in Goosebumps I've ever read in my life. And for some reason, Give Yourself Goosebumps books can really pull that off. One Night in Pain House is a book that Goosebumps Completionist recently reviewed, and we both talked about that in his comments section. I mean, I loved that book. That book was one of the scariest books I've ever read in my life, especially for Goosebumps. If you want a scary read, go hunt down that rare book, One Night in Pain House. You will have nightmares, probably. There's some really creepy stuff in that book, and this is a great example, too, of a book that has some scary stuff mixed in with that really comedic element to it, but it is more comedy than it is horror and scary stuff. But that basement scene, that was some scary stuff, man. You have to come down there a couple of times to deal with that stuff, with the poltergeists and the haunting in the walls and stuff. There's some eerie stuff in here. I like the book overall. I think it's a really fun read. I had a really good time. Like I said, my biggest recommendation about it is the fact that, or not my recommendation, my biggest acclaim to it, like I said with many Goosebumps books, I just want to be entertained. I don't really care about a moral or anything. I just want to be entertained in total. So if I feel the urge to want to come back to this when I cannot, whether I have to be at work all day long or whether I have to go do chores and stuff, and I'm really wanting to get back to reading the book, that's my big defining for whether I think a book is really as good as I think it is. And I think this is pretty good. I think it's pretty good in my opinion. There's not really a whole lot more to say about this book. I had a blast. I thought it was a really fun read. There was some stuff involving the dolls. Your sister's, your 5-year-old little sister's doll collection that was kind of spooky, you know? But there's some good stuff in here. Some really fun stuff. Kind of per usual stuff for Give Yourself Goosebumps, again with the comedic elements to it. I can't talk today, I'm sorry. I just got up like 30 minutes ago trying to get my brain unscrambled from dreaming and stuff, even though I don't dream, really. It was a good read. If you can get your hands on this, I'd recommend it. I think it's a really solid, fun, little ghost story type book. It flies by. Flies by because it's so much fun. I had a blast. I really recommend it if you haven't read Escape from Horror House. Really good. Really solid, really fun little read. I'm having a hard time about the ranking, or the rating, for my review. I've thought about this a lot the last couple of days, even though I just finished this a moment ago. I've been thinking a lot about what kind of experience I had with this book, and what do I think it deserves as a rating. If I'm being honest with you, when it comes to Escape from Horror House, the more I think about it, the more I'm really positive about it. I would probably give this about a 4 out of 5 stars. I had a really good time, but it's kind of like a borderline 3/4 out of 5 stars, because I had a really good time with this, but it was also kind of, it was good, but it wasn't, like, excellent, you know? But it was a solid read. I was really entertained by reading this, and again, I think the basement scene with the faces in the wall is what made me go ahead and give this a 4 out of 5 stars, because it was so atmospheric with that aspect. And again, it's just a fun read in general. I really enjoyed that about it. I think it was something I haven't had in a while in Goosebumps. I've had some good times. There was My Friend Slappy, the last book I reviewed from Goosebumps Slappy World as a series. And that was fun. It was a fun book. It was a cute book. It wasn't as fun as this, you know? So I had a good time with this. I really recommend it. Have you read Escape from Horror House? What did you think about it? Put your thoughts in comments down below. I would love to hear what you have to say about this book, because it seems like a lot of the Give Yourself Goosebumps books don't get talked about anymore. Nobody really discusses these or ranks these or anything. I didn't even know they existed until a couple of years ago, even though I was a big Goosebumps fan when I was growing up, which speaks to the volume of how disrespected and underrated these books are. I mean, Give Yourself Goosebumps, Choose Your Own Adventure books, just in general, Choose Your Own Adventure books as a genre of stuff, or subgenre, whatever you want to call that, is a blast. I love those things. They add so much to my reading experience, things that I wish that people like Brian Keene and Richard Lehman and all those folks had been able to write something like that, because it'd be great as a real adult horror book, being able to enjoy something like that too. It could be a lot of fun. It really could. Anyway, what are your thoughts? Put them down below. Thank you for watching. God bless you today, and goodbye.